when you get the wet conditions that might dry out throughout the course of the weekend, and then you get the high winds that are projected, and not even just sustained winds, these huge wind gusts at a completely exposed course, I just have a rule of thumb of guys that I like to play. It's generally guys that grinded on the DP World Tour, international players in general, or the plus distance, plus accuracy guys, and it takes short game meta play a little bit more. You want your, like Connors, for example, I think is perfect for something like this because you're not really relying on his short game anyway, but his ball striking in that sort of weather can absolutely persevere. And then guys from Texas. If guys are good in Texas or from Texas, they know how to play in the wind. That is just known.
At Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. This is the RBC Canadian Open. DraftKings picks, lineups, preview, ownership, Tambo from ShipItNation.com and the Ship It Nation YouTube channel. Back on after a few week absence, but we couldn't do the Canadian Open without two Canadians.
That's correct. You got to have the Canadians in the building. Excited to be back. Lots going on over at Ship It Nation, but you got a lot going on as well. I know today and every other day, Pat. So excited to be back here with you and break it all down for this one.
But a very special notice for people out there who are looking to use the tools to make their lineups better. You can get the rabbit hole, the full BetSpertsGolf.com suite right now by using code Canada, $1. For 7 days. That gets you, well, today is Tuesday. You get it Tuesday through Tuesday. You can build all your U.S. Open lineups with them as well. Canadian, it's a national giveaway, Tambo. So if anyone ever wanted to get in, projections, optimizer, old school, lineup, Fantasy National lineup generator, the head-to-head simulations, the betting tools, it's all there along with the live leaderboard. $1. BetSpertsGolf.com. Code Canada right now. I'd take advantage if I was you. I even saw someone use the live leaderboard over the weekend, Tambo, to hit JT Poston at 75 to 1 live in game. That's always nice.
Very nice. And by the way, there's not much in Canada you can get for $1. So just using that code to get this for $1, that's a pretty good deal.
That is a better rate than you'll find anywhere across the country. I did want to, well, let's start with Canada for a second. There was the U.S. Open qualifiers, the longest day in golf, which that Golf Channel did an okay job on. I really feel like that should be a blown out spectacle. Like, they don't advertise it enough, it feels like to me, and it's really gripping stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely much better content than a lot of the other stuff. You know how hard we rip on them for other things, and not just, it's PGA Tour, it's the major events, certain times. Like, there's always something to be said. One app this way, whatever they're showing. But for that one, like you said, it's the one they're actually going around, and there's a lot more storylines and things that they could be building on. Of course, we get to see Miles Russell with with Woods on the bag, Tiger Woods' son on the bag, and things like that. But you don't really get to see the entirety of it. And, a couple things like Ben Coles coming off the Corn Ferry Tour win, beaming it over there and then getting the job done and getting in that way. So you got to see a few of the stories, but they just don't do enough of it. It almost is like if they could have that plus your green zone idea and all these other things that they're working on. Hopefully we get those things eventually, but it's like that's one that I think could be a lot better for sure.
That would be a perfect example of where to use the green zone. You have 7 separate locations or 8 separate locations all going on simultaneously. My issue with it was it felt like there was 20 minutes of commercials for one golf shot. I know that's a problem in golf, but when that happens on a live broadcast like that, that just means there's either technical issues or people are just so overwhelmed they don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and could be a little bit of both. To me, it feels like the latter, just overwhelming for them, and I don't know why that's the case when the statement you just said is something you said in 2014, but it's actually 2026 that you're saying it right now again. So it's like that's the type of thing that drives us all crazy, as we've been saying the same thing. X used to be Twitter. You can go back and search history of people like us talking about this back then. So that's the frustrating part, more than just the things could be better. Like, things could always be better, but you got to make some changes at some point.
Did you see what happened to Adam Svensson in the Canadian qualifier?
I don't fully get it. I saw the whole thing on it. Like, I'm just not the rules guy or the expert guy or whatever, but like, he picked up his coin or something, and then therefore now he can only be as high as the second alternate, and obviously it really hurts his chances.
So I don't know about how it works with the second alternate versus third alternate, but what happened was he got into the massive playoff in the Canadian qualifier. So there's 6 spots. It was the Canadian qualifier is generally where most guys try to qualify because the Canadian Open is going on this week. You play in that on Monday, then you go play in the tournament like Griot and Toasty all got in. Jordan Smith got in as well by having some great rounds. But there was a giant playoff. Max Homa was in it. Adam Svensson was in it. Max McGreevy was in it. Homa got eliminated after the first hole after trying to to hole out a chip and just blew it by the hole, then missed the par comebacker. So he was done. So it was McGreevy and Svensson for the last spot. And McGreevy makes his putt. And so Svensson just picks up. It picks up his coin, doesn't finish the hole, thus taking him out of the running, because where he didn't finish the hole, I guess now he has no chance of being the first alternate. And the first alternate usually gets in to the U.S. Open. So just a huge brain fart from Cool Bet's own Adam Svensson.
Yeah, I love Adam Svensson's game. He's won me some money in the past, but yeah, that's definitely a tough break. And again, I didn't get the full context of it. That makes a ton of sense now. So yeah, that's not going to be good for him probably just based on how it works out, but it would have been a lot better if he had just not done that.
Finau also missed out as well. So if he does not qualify for the Open Championship, he'll be 0-4 of being in majors this year.
That's pretty wild to say as well. And I also saw something too, just side note on Finau, because it came up recently about like the big league advantage, right? The BLA for all those baseball players, and they, invest in like Fernando Tatis Jr. and they've got Jazz Chisholm and a bunch of different other players, Ellie DeCruz and all this on their, buy-in back in the day and then pay them out. And everyone talked about Finau and his deal and law and all that type of stuff. And I think it's settled. I saw like this article as I was digging into that, because people were saying, imagine Finau, but I think he settled his stuff. So you'd think he'd like sort of, rein it back in and feel a little bit looser now that he doesn't have to think about owing all this money out based on his past deal or whatever that thing was.
Yeah, well, this is the first event of the Open Championship qualifying series at the Canadian Open. So the top 3 placements on the leaderboard that are not previously qualified for the Open Championship will earn a spot this week. So that's something to look forward to. He's in the field this week. Maybe we use him. But I want to start with the weather for this tournament at TPC Toronto. I just put it up on windfinder.com right now. I'm using the Caledon Wind Tower. The weather looks horrendous, dude. And I can't recall a tournament where, like, we had rain last week. We had rain projected for the CJ Cup. That delayed stuff a little bit. We got rain and wind. Gusts up to 31 miles per hour on Thursday. Gusts up to 32 on Friday. 32 on Saturday. 29 on Sunday. This tournament could be a shit show.
Welcome to Canada and our life that we live daily. This is a different area, obviously, from where we are, but just noting it, that's what it kind of sets up like. So what's your first thoughts as far as building it out? Are you thinking about anything in relation to what you're seeing now, or are you just thinking just overall?
I am just thinking overall, honestly. Like, I take a look at it, and there's a lot of rain in the forecast overnight on Wednesday into Thursday morning. So we could see a delay anyway of guys not being on the course. If there's any electricity in those clouds, they just simply won't let them play golf. So you might get a delayed tee time. There doesn't appear to be any sort of wave advantage at the moment. I guess the guys, if it does get delayed, the AM group might get pretty soft conditions. They might get, everyone will get lift, clean, and replace for the first round. But where this course is so long, distance didn't play that big of a factor a year ago. But if it gets super wet, at least for the first little bit, whether you're playing first round leader or showdown or just trying to get a 6-6 lineup through, I do think that distance with obviously some accuracy, because the rough can be pretty penal here, that you're going to need some carry distance because the ball's just not going to roll all that much.
Yeah, and I think just in general, get the bombers, birdie makers, things like that. If you want to put them in there either way, it's always a good thing. But I think one thing that's more interesting to me, and again, it could work out because the weather. Blickla and I talk about this all the time on Leverage Lane. I think this would be another good spot for it here is when we look at the board. I know we're only on weather now, but when we get to the pricing later, always thinking ahead here. But the setup is there's a lot of options this week and ways you can build and within each range, 10K, 9K, 8K, 7K, just all loaded. So what that makes me think, Pat, is when you add that with some mixed weather like this, there's a chance, at least, I know everybody hates on, the high 6-6s this season, but there is a chance for some higher variance based off of that. So if you ever wanted to build in sets, even outside of the weather, not just not a weather wave advantage, just a wave, just a building in waves, I wouldn't actually have a problem with it because you may avoid some of the natural chalk anyway in doing that. And then maybe you get weather in your favor, maybe you don't, but at least you'd have sort of builds that all are correlated in that way, in that sense, where you can avoid some of the top chalk. And maybe if it is a lower 6-6 week for once, you'd be able to be in a pretty good spot for yourself. So we'll look more at that tomorrow on the Ship It Nation YouTube station with Leverage Lane, but you and I are going to build these things out today and see it. So have to go from there.
One thing that I would advise doing, and I haven't done this in a while because I haven't seen this much weather coming in to potentially impact play, and maybe it doesn't make a difference whatsoever, but I do think this is a good time to T-stack. And we don't have the tee times out as we're recording this show right now, but just allocating a certain amount of lineups, if you're playing in mass multi-entry, to AM stacks or PM stacks, you could just find yourself in the right wave.
That's my thoughts. As like I said, that's what I go about. And people always say, well, weather always gets overblown, has to be massive. And I agree. That's what we've seen. But what people forget is, like I said, there's going to be, we see it some weeks where, 5 of the top 7 guys are all in a wave. And I'm not getting away from them just because I want to get away from them. I'm not stacking I'm not stacking for the weather. I'm just doing it because it will naturally alleviate me from those guys. And then people say, well, you played all these guys at 12%. You didn't have any leverage in your lineup. Well, the leverage was I had none of the top 5 guys in the ownership ranks just because the setup of building on a wave that's on the opposite of them.
And you probably don't have guys that are normally put together because you're building that way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can really work in your favor in these spots. And this one we can double down, because what if the weather actually comes into play as well? What if you do it with, shout out to our boy Raza. What if you have the skill stacks as well? You've got these bombers that make birdies in the wave, and it ends up working out that way. You could really mix a lot of things together. And that's why I always say it's not just who you play, it's how you play them. And this would be a prime example.
You'll get more on that on Wednesday morning live on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel with Blickle and Tambo. We'll be back in 1 second to build some lineups. Stay tuned. Summer's actually the time of year when I notice bad sleep for me the most, because the days are longer, the kids are running around nonstop, they're staying up later because it's so gloriously bright out throughout the course of the night, and then they tell me, it's not bedtime, it's not dark out, although that logic never applies in the wintertime when it gets 4:30 p.m. dark out. Now, does it, kids? But I'm outside more, I'm playing more golf, and if I don't get a good night's sleep, I feel awful the next day. It's one of the reasons I've been so happy with my Helix mattress. I've now had mine for a couple years, and it's been a massive upgrade from what I was sleeping on before. I fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and I wake up feeling far more recovered. That's the important part. When you're trying to squeeze the most out of your summer, which I have to where I live, it's a pretty big deal to me. What I really like about Helix is they make it easy. Just take their sleep quiz and they'll match you with the mattress that's right for you and your sleep style and preferences. And the summer sale is going on at helixsleep.com right now. So go to helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off. Make sure to enter the show name at checkout so they know we sent you. The Travelers Championship. Now is the time. This is the place. Every star, every round, every shot that makes your heart race as legends walk the fairways. Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Cameron Young, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and other PGA Tour greats, all battling to be called champion. See the world's best for all 4 days. No cut. You'll feel the pressure before the shot, the roar when it drops. You'll stand close enough to see it all, the intensity, the focus, the moment when everything comes down to mere inches, and where everything makes you feel part of the moment. It's golf at its best, up close, open to all, and only here. The excitement starts June 24th and runs through June 28th at TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. For tickets and information, visit travelerschampionship.com. Now is the time. This is the place. Let's jump right into this. Let's build some lineups for the Canadian Open. Of note, there is an extra show coming out this week for the Canadian Open. If you haven't been following along with Spencer's King of the Draft DraftKings bracket, you're in that, aren't you?
I am. My pool is going to be up next week for the U.S. Open.
Oh, that's a good one. Get Tambo for the U.S. Open. You'll be on the... Me, you, and Blickle will do the 3-man for the U.S. Open, breaking down Millionaire Maker picks. But we are doing a King of the Draft. 4 players. We're drafting 4 separate DraftKings teams against each other. It's going to be me versus Blickle versus Raza versus Cust, who will be in studio with me. That show will come out on Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, I believe. So you can see the teams that we end up coming up with for the Canadian Open. The only caveat to that will be that if the U.S. Open pricing comes out before our scheduled recording time, we'll do it for the U.S. Open and release that next week, because that'll be fun. Just throwing a monkey wrench into everything with no one having any time to prep. The top 2 move on in the bracket. You can check out Spence's entire bracket if you want to see who that goes. So be on the lookout for that. Smash smash the like while you're here, sub to Mayo Media Network, and give me your favorite 6K guy down in the comment section right now. So let's jump up to the pricing. Matt Fitzpatrick is the highest price player at the moment. Fleetwood and Burns are the other two guys above $10,000. You have Morikawa back. I believe they've had the kid. Not quite sure on that yet, but he's at 9,900. Hasn't played in a while. Wyndham Clark comes in on fire. Brooks T to green, obviously on fire at $9,500. Then you got some Euros. Bobby Mack, Justin Rose. Rose with an amazing T to green week last week. Could not putt to save his life. And then you have Victor Hovland, who I was trying to figure out why he did not play in Memorial. Turns out he had back spasms. That's not good.
Yeah, it's been, everyone was waiting for him to come back, Morikawa to come back, like you talked about. But funny enough, you had like some positive comments around that 9K range. And I think this is going to be one of the times where one of the first times in a long time that we see where the 8K range is more popular than the 9K range, just at first glance. So we'll come back to that, I'm sure. But just noting it, like you said, when you just threw the, and we got some Euros down at the bottom, it's like, I don't know if people want to pay 9K, 9,100. Look at Hogard. We talked at the PGA Championship at 6,800, how he should have been 8K. Now, what was last week? 8 over miscut or something. I forget what the exact results were at the Memorial for him, but he's up to 9,100 now. So maybe people aren't as interested. Bobby Mack, 94, et cetera, et cetera. So I think people are going to live at the top with Fleetwood. And then, of course, Fitzpatrick, maybe even some Burns, and then you go down to that 8K range, and I think there's going to be a lot of love there for those price points.
Well, there's going to be a lot of recency bias on this. Even Matt Fitzpatrick had a really good ball striking week and just couldn't drain a putt. So I think that Fitzpatrick will be the lowest owned of the top three guys, especially with Burns having lost in a playoff last year, coming off a great week at Memorial, and Fleetwood finally kind of showing up for the first time all year to be ultra competitive in a big spot that a lot of people watch. So I would expect those two, with Burns being number one, to carry the day in terms of ownership, and I would expect Wyndham Clark to be very close to him as well.
Yeah, that's definitely how I see it. It's funny, like Fitzpatrick gets all those wins and crushes it and everything, but like Fleetwood will show up one time last week and it's like, oh, we got to be in on Fleetwood for the $200 savings. So that's what I'm seeing right now, early on at least.
So if we try to build the chalk lineup right now, I think it starts, if we can make this work, because it might just be one of the top guys, then down into the eights, like you said. But I think it starts Burns and Clark, which I like. I'm not going to lie to you, but I can figure out ways to get different here.
It's interesting, like the way again, we have initial projections out only. So it's like you say, they're, starting to look at it from that perspective. But I think Fleetwood is still going to be the most popular. So it's going to be tough. There's going to be multiple builds, but I can see it where like, here's an example. Like you can get Cole and Rye are 8K and 8,300. So it's like there's, those examples at 75, you've got, Doug Gim, Jaeger, Finau's at 74. You got Bud Cauley at 7,800. So I start seeing people go there, and I don't know. Like I guess what I'm saying is by the end of the show we'll see, but I could see a world where the double spend up build is not quite. I mean, there'll be a popular version of that, but I'm saying it might not be the most popular build when you see how sort of those 8K guys fit in there. There's just so many guys in the 8K range that people are going to go to this week versus that 9K range that I think it's going to become more builds like that. And then you got the upper 7Ks is loaded as well.
So you think that Fleetwood is going to be more owned than Burns and Clark?
I think Fleetwood's going to be the most owned. Yeah.
Okay. So if we do that, let's just take out Clark and Burns for the moment. We'll put in Fleetwood. We'll keep in Ryan Cole. So do you think those two are going to be pretty popular? I think Mac Meisner is going to be super popular at 7,900. I only say this because he projects out really well. The stats line up for him, and he's already gone from 66 to 1 to 40 to 1 in the betting market. That's usually a pretty good sign of a guy being pretty popular.
Yeah, 100%. I think him and Bud Cauley both look pretty popular early. So
do you think Cauley will be more popular than someone like, let's say, Johnny Kiefer, Jordan Smith, or Taylor Pendrith?
Feels that way, yeah, right now, just with early projections, and it kind of lands you on Hoey, and that exact build is just an example of what I was talking about earlier. If you just closed it out with Cauley Hoey, that's the type of build that people are going to be playing here. The thing about this though is you'll see it once you plug it in, is you can also put, you've got it there. Pendrith could be your guy, or if you want to drop down to say Doug Gim, people might say, oh, I don't care. There's no difference to me between like Gim and Hoey or something, for $200. If I need the money, great. And that changes it. Now you could get from Fleetwood up. You could drop Fleetwood down to Burns, like you said, and maybe Cauley becomes Nick Taylor, for example, right? There's an example. What's that one? If you go Nick Taylor, Meisner, and then Burns, Cole, Rye, Hoey, or Pendrith, to your point, and you've got pretty much the lineup that I think people would go to, right? That looks pretty popular as well.
I hate this lineup. This lineup sucks.
This is what I'm saying earlier. So this is the good news. One thing I can tell from open contests right now on DraftKings, like fill rate, I'll say on DraftKings. I know it's only Tuesday, but I'm telling you, this is setting up, Pat, to be one of those lazy weeks, right? We've got the U.S. Open next week. It's, the one event in Canada is, we're saying it's exciting to us. I'm just saying I don't think it's that exciting to others. It's not like it's a better field than what maybe people have seen in the past. Like, oh, we're excited. This is a better field than what we've often seen here. But I'm just saying, I don't see this being like a week where everyone's just dialed in. And what that means is we're going to get very congested ownership. And your statement right there was perfect. Is, man, this lineup, I don't even like it. It kind of sucks. That's good for us playing DFS and staying fully focused and dialed in, because this is what I think people are going to land on, and we're going to be able to exploit that. And it may not work out, but we want to be able to play to exploit it and then hope it goes our way with low 6-6. And we've got lineups that have better shots.
So my biggest problem with this lineup in particular, trying to pick it apart, is I think there are too many good players in this field and we're just not using enough of them.
Yeah, that's exactly how it could look. And that's, like I said, when you just go to the 9K range alone, you've got Clark, Koepka, McIntyre, Rose. Like the statements you made off the top were what? Clark, Koepka, and Rose you talked about?
Yeah.
Right. And you still have $7,200 left to spend. And what's good about that is, one, you made a real case for those guys up there. And even if you just put a couple of them, that's fine. Like you took Brooks out for Noren, great. But you're not landing in that same Meisner, Cauley, et cetera, spot. You're forcing yourself down the board with some really good options still.
Expect Austin Eckroat to be pretty popular at $7,000. That would be my guess for some of the guys down here. Emiliano Grillo as well. Grillo was first tee to green at this tournament last year and just won the Canadian qualifier to get into the U.S. Open. So all eyes could be back on him. I don't know if they will be or not, but he's not a terrible option. Neil Shipley is very interesting because I sorted by strokes gained off the tee over the last month, like distance v accuracy, which I think you're going to really want. No one is better than Shipley. Rico Hoey, Shipley, and Michael Brunnan are kind of your guys here, along with Brooks.
Yeah, we did. He's another storyline we did get yesterday. His showed up on the timeline. Shipley got into the U.S. Open, so as a huge Ship It Nation fan, maybe Neil Shipley is the way to go. But 6,800, he fits in there and leaves you 66, and you still have guys like Hoagie, Clanton, your boy Adam Svensson. Maybe he's on a makeup tour now after that. If you had to just sort of close the lineup out with that, you could do that. But there's, having 6,700, I think is fine. I don't know if people are going to have an appetite to pay 8,700 for Alex Fitzpatrick, but obviously he's playing some incredible golf.
They should. I think there is no difference between Alex Fitzpatrick stats and Matt Fitzpatrick stats over the past 6 weeks. None. Oh,
agreed. He beat him again. I think it's been incredible. And that's why it was hilarious when people trying to say that, he got dragged to the finish line or something, like Matt Fitzpatrick did all the work or something at that event, at the Zurich, the team event, to get him in. But the other thing I'm saying though, is that's where I think the Rise, the Bridgmans, the Coles, the Nick Taylors, they're down even cheaper than Fitzpatrick. So when people land there, sure, I think both Wrighton and Fitzpatrick will get clicked at 87 and 8,800. But I'm saying that's another, just look how stacked the 8K range is. I also think people are willing to go down the board to Hall, Rye, Mitchell, Bridgman, Cole, Taylor, all sitting there right at the bottom. If you need that extra money to move away from like your version here of Fisk and Shipley or whatever.
I like the Fisk Shipley type of move. I think that you could also, as I mentioned, you could put Grillo into that spot as well, where Shipley currently resides. We haven't really seen it as much for Shipley recently. Like, the dude's barely making cuts, but he is gaining a bunch. It's a lot like when you take a look at his stats. I'll drop them in right now so we can take a look at them here. So these are Neil Shipley's stats. Rabbit hole again, betspertsgolf.com, code Canada. Get it for $1 this week. Brings you Tuesday to Tuesday. If you do it on Wednesday, brings you Wednesday to Wednesday. Then you get both tournaments for the price is one. You can even check it out up here. Look at all these tools: custom matchups, optimizer, live leaderboard, database, player database, the legacy tools. Discord is in there as well, and you'll get a tournament cheat sheet based on all the stats. But with Neil Shipley, look at these gaudy numbers off the tee. These are incredible.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. Like, again, he's coming in hot. I don't know that he's going to even project super well. So that's where, again, you'll hear he gets mentioned by you and I right now. Other people are going to talk about this. They'll see those stats. You might see a few posts on X, whatever. but then people are like, oh, everyone's talking about him. And then who's playing him? 4%, 5%, something like that. Like 95% of the field is ignoring him completely. And that's a huge leverage option that you could go to there. And plus, we saw, Pat, already. The other thing that's important when people talk about that type of stuff is what is the common construction. There's like no construction that needs a 6K guy this week from the original starting point of what we looked at. But that's not to say you don't go and play that. So I'm perfectly fine with what you've got set up here, something like this. But it just shows that the multiple 8K guys all season long, you'd be lucky to see one 8K guy or less in your lineup. And now you're seeing, this week, 2 to 3 quite easily.
How much do you think people are looking at last year's leaderboard? And while Burns was there, Cam Young was there, in retrospect, like when you reverse engineer it, you're like, oh, this had some big names near the top. But all of the big names in the tournament from last year were like nowhere near the leaderboard.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of course history on a whole this season. It's probably recency bias, but I'll say this: like last week, a lot of people still thought Cantlay was going to get the love because of his history in the past, and it wasn't like he was super popular, and he was more than affordable in a range. It kind of just depends on what's around people. But when you have a board last year of like Putnam, Hodges, Skins, only really one guy up top that we've got is Burns. It'd be another prime example. Like, I know they only played this course that one time, but like Lowry's often done well at Canadian Opens, in the past, but it doesn't matter because different courses, different timeline, different everything. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be super prevalent outside of maybe Burns, just because he's coming off a really good week and playoff last year, like you talked about.
So that's one version of the lineup that I do really like. Again, you can replace it with Griot at the bottom. I asked this for the comment section. I'll ask everyone else again. I'll ask you at the same time. Of the 6K guys, I think 6K guys are super live this week, just based on how this tournament, especially with the weather variable that's coming in. Are there any that you particularly like down there? Because I kind of like AJ Ewart.
Yeah, a good Canadian guy to get in there if you want. I think probably just being a truther from the past and just is having an okay season obviously right now, but William Mao right at 6,900 once you drop in there. I like your Shipley call. I think he's fine. After that down the board a little bit, I'm not super high on many of these guys, and I just think it's because the bottom 7K range we haven't even clicked once yet, and that's where there'll be options there, but none of them will be popular enough that it matters. So when you kind of go with like the Potgeiters, the Ricky Castillos, the Zach Boshu, like these types of guys down there that you can go to, Hao Tong Lee, Tom Kim, McGreevy, Taylor Moore, Smotherman. There's a lot of guys there, man. They can't all get played. And those are just completely unique lineups to everything that we've looked at so far because we haven't even used those 7K guys yet.
If we had to guess of who would be the most popular from down in the $7,000 range, I'm not saying these guys are going to be 17% owned. I mean that they're going to be prevalent in lineups when you're trying to match with the top of the board. Like that first lineup that I built where it was like, let's say Fitzpatrick, Clark, I don't know, Wrighton. Let's say we throw that in. It leaves you with 7,000 left. So you'll be in that area. You say like Chairman Mao is right there. Ewart's there. Shipley and Griot were there. Oh, I zoomed in somehow way too much on that. I don't know.
Boy, Higo, it's telling you something, man. Yeah. All I saw was Higo just smash you in the face there. So that
now it's way too small. I don't know what's going on with this. There we go. I don't know what the hell happened there. Just had a glitch out on the screen. However, so if you go Fitzpatrick, Clark, Wrighton, and maybe that's too much for Fitzpatrick, let's throw in Burns, like we were talking about earlier. So now we have $7,100 left. If you had to fill that out from this range, who do you think the 3 most popular clicks would be? So for me, it would be Eckroat, Jackson Suber, who I think is going to get some love. I've already bet him this week. And then I think you're looking at Baushu or Fisk as the next guy, as the last guy in.
Yeah, there could be some name value to Finau as well that people just click them.
I would rather play Homa here at $7,300 than play Finau.
How could you play Homa, Pat? He just missed the playoff, man.
I
know. Couldn't get it done in the playoff to make the U.S. Open. How could you even play him here? But yes, I see what you're saying, and I'm fine. I think the Fisk one's actually really interesting. We'll see how he ends up doing this week. I'm certainly not a picks and plays guy, but I do think, like, again, a guy that can just go low and score. I think one thing people often will shy away from, and I really would highly recommend against this week, of like just people being like, oh, I've already got this guy in there. Like, I've already got Eckroat. So do I really want to play Suber and Fisk and risk that? Yes, you do. I want to play all of them. And it's like, Fisk is worth the risk is the best way to put it, because the point is, if you're going to need guys to go low and you've got multiples of them, if you don't do it, someone else will. And then when you're standing behind saying, oh, I took the safety call of this loser and he's no good anymore, look what he ended up doing, he killed my lineup. It's usually because people, especially when they're just hand building or putting one lineup out there, they're like, oh, I've already got two risky guys or two guys that have, high upside, but also low floors. Well, that's fine. I would take on those low floors to risk the high ceiling, because you're going to need it. If you don't do it, someone else will.
And now, because of where I stand in the, I have 4 teams in 3 separate finals of the Underdog Best Ball Tambo. So turns out I'm good at that. Who knew that this would be where I would come through? Code Mayo at Underdog, by the way. Also, I've been using SharpStack and printing money on the WNBA. It's fucking fantastic. Just great news.
That's the best, right? When you get the niche stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen a second of the WNBA, but good Lord, do I win way more money on the WNBA than I do on PGA. I'll tell you that much. But Eckroat, Suber, Fisk, if you wanted to play like the best guys from down here, if we just wanted to enter that lineup, then completely recreate it. Oh my God. What the hell has happened here? Google Chrome glitching out on me here, and might need to change it up. So if we just put that lineup back in and you wanted to play like legitimately what I would consider to be the best talents from down here, if that's just the route that you wanted to take, not knowing the tee times as of yet, I'm looking at, where are we at here? Where were they? You'd play Rasmus Niergaard Peterson, you play Max Homa, and then you play Neil Shipley. That would be your lineup.
Yeah, and I guess I love it. I'm saying, but that's another one. Like, most people would look at that and say Homa and Shipley together, or like and Niergaard Peterson. But to your point, it's like you said, it's just you're hoping that it all comes together and it works for you, because it's like it's one event. If it works, though, it could really work, and that's why I like something like that. I've got no problem with that build at all.
When you see conditions like this, do you lean Euro?
I don't ever like just lean that way, because it's like, again, it all depends on a lot of different factors of like the price points, the roster constructions, the waves, all of those factors. But I've got no problem if you want to do almost like a thought process around like, okay, Euros typically play well in this type of weather or something like that. Therefore, I'm just going to stick to a theme. It's fine. But, usually an optimizer is not going to find that for me. So not something I would look at. But second thought I would have, though, just to your exact lineup you just had on the thing, I was going to add this. Tom Kim and Finau with Shipley is an example of the other side of what I said earlier, Pat. So when you went Homa and Niergaard Peterson, many people would say, I'm not doing that. That's just way too aggressive. I could play like names that I know, Tom Kim and Tony Finau, and I feel way better about it. And now I just need Shipley to do everything, and I'll be good. And you've heard that a billion times, right? A lot of people say that, and then all of a sudden Tom Kim and Finau play like how Tom Kim and Finau have played for a long time now, which is not great. And then you're like, oh, again, don't have the exact, let me see before I say too much. Tom Kim, yeah, not great. I think I'm correct here. I just want to make sure.
Of note, Tom Kim, cuss one and done pick this week.
Yeah. But that's another added factor. But just noting it, like, see where people say that feels safe because the name value and the recognition and all of that versus your Homa, Niergaard Peterson. And it's like, Homa sucks. He missed a putt and didn't make the US Open in a playoff. It's like, okay, the guy was right there. He actually probably played really good to get in that spot and be able to have that happen. And now he has the upside in this field, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just my point of people look at like 3 of those names together and say, no way, can't do that. I'll take the safe route. And then they wonder why one of these guys burns them. And then they're like, well, actually, you're right. I just knew their name. They haven't even been playing good. That's the problem.
When we return, I want to dig into those weather lineups to see if we can use the stat base to build a lineup that way or just kind of go off vibes. Stay tuned. Starting something new is terrifying. I remember right before launching this show thinking, what if no one listens? What if it completely flops? And that's something that has persisted every time that I hit record and go to edit a show, even as I'm recording this right now. It never goes away. But taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And honestly, having something like Shopify back then would have made it a whole lot easier. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses. Whether you're just getting started or scaling up, you can build a clean, professional store with ready-to-use templates that actually match your brand. No coding headaches. And it's not just a storefront. Shopify's got built-in AI tools to help write product descriptions, improve your pages, even upgrade your images. Plus, You can run email and social campaigns right from the platform like you've got a full marketing team behind you. That would have been great like 15 years ago, not gonna lie to you. Best part, everything lives in one place. Inventory, payments, analytics, so you're not juggling 5 different tools to run your business. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/PatMayo. Go to shopify.com/PatMayo. That's shopify.com/PatMayo. Season's changing, which means I need to flip my entire wardrobe, and I looked at my closet and I started thinking, why do I own so much junk that I never actually wear? I've been trying to scale it back. Fewer things, but better stuff. And honestly, that's why I keep going back to Quince over and over. Their pieces just make sense. The fabric feels legit, real quality, not that fake premium marketing nonsense that they send me on Instagram. That stuff sucks. What you want is super breathable, really comfortable clothing that looks sharp without trying too hard. Even the Flow Knit activewear. That's the sneaky one for me. It's soft, moisture wicking, doesn't stink, and you can wear it all day and not feel gross, which is a big win for me. The kicker is the price. It's like 50 to 60% less than what you'd expect to pay for this level of quality because they cut out the middleman and go straight to the source. So you're not paying for a logo, you're paying for good clothes. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/mayo for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/mayo. Quince.com/mayo. All right, we're back. Rabbit Hole is up here right now. Again, code Canada at betsportsgolf.com. Hit the description, get in there. All my final plays and ownership updates will be available in the Mayo Media newsletter, which is completely free to sub to. You can get that down in the description and on Substack as well under the Mayo Media newsletter. Tambo, I set the time frame to the past 18 months. I'm going to go into conditions and go to wind. Let's see where wind pops up now. There we are, wind. We'll go to moderate to windy. We'll put both of those in. And we can just sort by windy to kind of make, you know what, I'm just going to put in over 18 miles per hour because we've seen a lot of those gusts come through and just see if there's, and we have a decent sample on some guys. Obviously, someone like Wrighton doesn't have a ton going on in that aspect because he hasn't played that many rounds on tour. But you get like 18, 24, small-ish sample size, but I like to take a look at this anyway to see who the best players are. You have Lowry, Connors, Thorbjorn Olesen. Olesen, of note, was tied for the first round lead with Christian de Soleil last year. Morikawa, Noren, Colley, Baushu. I feel like we can make a pretty solid lineup just from those guys alone.
That's what I'm trying to look at here. This is how I always do this. When I'm looking at it is like, okay, what can make some sense of this? And it's also a way to be unique with some of the popular plays. So let's say Colley, as we talked about earlier, does end up being popular at 7,800 this week. Some will lean to this and say, yeah, well, it's because I saw him on BetSports and he was, really good in these things. But then the rest of their lineup will have none of these guys in it, right? Well, I can't play Lowry. He's not popping in my projections. It's like they're going in two totally different. I can't play Morikawa. He just did this. But if you built like a Morikawa, Lowry, Colley, Olesen lineup, just as an example to start off, that still leaves us 8,100. Who I'm trying to remember who was another guy. I know you'll bring it back, so we'll just look at it. Who else was in there?
Connors is at 78.
Yeah, definitely Connors. So let's put him in there, and that leaves us.
There's somewhat storytelling to this lineup as well. Like there is a commonality between all of these guys. These are all plus players off the tee who don't do any of it through distance.
Right, and so now if you round it out, it's got Aaron Rye and Keith Mitchell. So who was back there? I thought I saw Mitchell.
No Keith Mitchell. Colley. Harry Hall, if we had one more for Harry Hall, he would be there. Ryan Fox, last year's winner, is there. Brennan Bridgman at 81 is right there.
Yeah. So I guess my thing is I would look at like what you think rounds it out best, where you're comfortable with it. But I'd be fine if you went to like, I guess you could also do like Olesen to John Perry.
Oh, you know what we can do?
Harry Hall.
We can do Morikawa to Brooks because he was on the list as well. And then that gets us almost up. I was trying to get ourselves to Noren, who was also on that list, to try to round it out that way. Let's see here. Who can we do? So what was... Olesen was 72. John Perry is 71.
Oh, I like the Fox Bridgman. You can go Koepka, Lowry, Colley, Fox, Connors, Bridgman.
Say that again? Lowry, Colley, Brooks.
Take out Olesen and take out Noren.
Connors, Bridgman.
Connors, Bridgman, Fox. You get last year's winner in there with a completely different build too. Only one 8K. Most of the lineups we saw had 2 or more. 2 9K guys that probably nobody's going to end up playing based on just the way it's likely to shake out with ownership. And then you've got Cauley, who's popular, but you got him in there with, even him and Connors could both be popular, but they're in there together with a lineup that actually makes sense. And then you land on Bridgman and Fox, which is not bad at all. So yeah, I think something like that. And then obviously, Pat, if you did once tee times come out and you say, okay, well, shit, this one is actually this, and I could have like one more move would get me this, that's fine. If you want to just double down, that's what I was talking about earlier, where you could have like a stack that also correlates based on wind and weather and now in the same wave as well.
Taking a look at this, I'm just trying to think of like how, obviously I'm going to play this one now that we've pumped it in. So I'll hit enter on that one, then repopulate it up. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my bets this week because I only have 3 bets in so far. The 2 that I gave out on the show on Monday with Jeff, and they were super long shots. I bet Grazerman at Open, and then I bet, who the hell was it? Jackson Super at Open. But I also bet Alex Fitzpatrick this morning at the 45-1 number for win only. I like him, and I'm actually really considering betting Noren this week. I think this is a perfect Noren course. I think it's a perfect Noren weather situation. I think everything, and he's just playing some really good golf right now. He's trending well.
Yeah, I like the Noren call quite a bit more. What'd you say his number was?
His number's like 35-1, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean,
but can I work these guys in? I guess is my question here. Like, if I get rid of Bridgman and Brooks, can I work in Fitz and Noren? I guess is my question. Fitz, I can actually. That's an exact 2v2.
So what was it? So you
went
to Fitz,
Brooks and Bridgman for Fitz and Noren.
And then you still have Lowry, Fox, Cauley, Connors.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good find. I like that one. Lowry, Fox.
And this sticks with almost, you have, this is just a rule of thumb. I have no idea how accurate it is whatsoever. But if you're dealing with high winds or like weird conditions where even on Saturday and Sunday, it's not going to be like cold, but it's going to be colder than it usually is in late mid-June, even in Toronto, like where it's been scorching hot lately. It just will not be versus the first 2 days where it will be incredibly hot on Thursday and Friday. But when you get the wet conditions that might dry out throughout the course of the weekend, and then you get the high winds that are projected, and not even just sustained winds, these huge wind gusts at a completely exposed course, I just have a rule of thumb of guys that I like to play. It's generally guys that grinded on the DP World Tour, international players in general, or the plus distance, plus accuracy guys, and it takes short game at a play a little bit more. You want your, like Connors, for example, I think is perfect for something like this because you're not really relying on his short game anyway, but his ball striking in that sort of weather can absolutely persevere. And then guys from Texas. If guys are good in Texas or from Texas, they know how to play in the wind. That is just known.
Yeah, we can do that. Can you go to that in BetSports?
I can put in guys who play well. I can actually. Let's see.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I was going to say the other thing while you're doing that is like the lineup that you just put up was funny because we kind of talked through it and then just ended up landing on it. But it was like Lowry has been fine and people just ignore it. So at like 9K, he starts the lineup. Yes, you have 2 8K guys, but it's ones that most probably don't go to in Fitzpatrick and Noren. I actually think Wrighton will be clicked more than Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick will get some, but will he be in lineups with Noren above him and Lowry just above him and Lowry as the starting point? Probably not. Also, Connors, Cauley, Fox, all 7,800. While most are sitting there debating that as like a 1v1v1. I got to pick one of these 3 guys. You're like, no, you don't. I'm just playing all 3 together. And again, in optimizers, things like that, certain things will come together. But for most people just sitting at home building, 20 or less, building by hand, that sort of thing, oftentimes it becomes I have to pick one as opposed to what happens if I just play all 3. And also, Pat, we've seen plenty of times getting tagged on X or Twitter back in the day where someone says, well, it's funny. You 2 debated and fought over this guy versus this guy. I just plugged them both in and I won 20,000. We're like, great and good. We're excited for you. We are, but we're like, damn, why didn't we just think of that? That debate was like, we both made a good case. And the answer was to just play both. So I love that when that works out as well.
So Lowry, Noren, Fitz, Fox, Cauley, Connors. I think there's other adjustments you can make here because I do want to try to find a way to get Michael Brennan into the mix a little bit more. Maybe that means coming down from Lowry. Like I think that you can go from Lowry up to Bobby Mack. I don't think that anyone is playing Bobby Mack this week. And well, I understand why. I mean, I will show you exactly why no one is playing Robert McIntyre, but he His profile is so Sam Burnsy right now. It is unbelievable. Like, dude is just, when he gains a ton off the tee. I mean, wait, Robert McIntyre. There we go. What am I trying to look at here? Sure, I'm only looking at Texas tournaments. That's why I was like, geez.
Hey, pretty good though, by the way. T2, T6.
Oh yeah, guy plays well in Texas. Guy played well at par 70s. I just got the Texas filter on. You can see right here under course region. I just put in Texas over the last 3 years. So your best players in Texas over the last 3 years. A limited sample on a lot of these guys, obviously. Wyndham Clark, Denny McCarthy, Alex Noren, Shootershawn Yelamaraju in his National Open this time around. Brennan, Connors, Fleetwood, Kiefer, Sam Burns, Colley, Cole, Baushu, Mitchell, Putnam, Shane Lowry, Finau, Rye. There's Jagger, Morikawa. It was a lot of the win guys, honestly.
But like, yeah, Colley, but like some of these guys, Kiefer, how much is he this week? He's only 7,600.
I like Kiefer a lot here, especially if it gets windy. And I think he flamed out at this tournament last year. I'm going to get rid of the conditions so I can look at the full profile. Just do that by, cancel, reset course region, get back to everyone.
Was Brennan in there or no?
Yeah, Brennan was one of the guys.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There was a couple of nice lineups in there actually, yeah, that you could see. But yeah, that's the type of stuff that we're looking at.
So this is what I wanted to show you with Bobby Mack for a second. Just look at this gaining off the tee. Now, his approach play is absolutely abysmal. But when you open Sam Burns' card, it's kind of like the same thing a lot of the time, although his approach has been improving. But he's someone who, like, at his best, like when he was fourth at the Players, he's like in a rut right now. That sucks. I wish he was coming in better form. But the last time he lost strokes off the tee was last year's BMW Championship. So he's going to gain in distance. He's going to gain in accuracy. Generally speaking, he's one of the best putters on tour. He's been in a little mini rut there recently, although putted really well at the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's just his chipping and his approach play has been absolutely dreadful. Basically, remember when he was trying to chase down JJ Spawn at the end of Valero and he hit that like absolute duck hook, right? It kind of sent him into a spiral, it feels like.
Yeah. And again, for those that remember that, or those that sort of go back to that type of thing, it can affect what they do in their player pools and how they build their lineups off of that. But for us, like you said, and what I'm thinking about, it's like, that means nothing to this week up ahead. And a lot of the other stuff you talked about there is actually encouraging. And there's just no way he's going to get clicked at 9,400.
No. And I think that, listen, it's no different than the conversation that you had at the bottom of these lineups where you're like, well, you can't play Homo with Rasmus Nørgaard Peterson. Both those guys could just come in dead last. Bobby Mack, I would throw into that. Like, if you want some guy to make the cut, let's see here. I don't know. For $9,400, you need someone who desperately makes the cut. You're looking at who? Take Justin Rose. That guy's probably going to make the cut.
Yeah.
But, and I don't want to say that Bobby has more win equity than Justin Rose, but you're going to get him at far lesser ownership. Not that Rose is going to be super highly owned, but I just think it's a really nice spot for him and what his skill set is for this course. And based on what we saw last year, that Burns, Cam Young type, like, what is Cam Young? Cam Young's not a great approach player by any means. He's great off the tee. He figured out how to putt, and he's kind of like good in between. Some weeks he's horrible with his irons, horrible with his chipping. Other weeks he's pretty good. All you need from Robert McIntyre is to be pretty good with his irons and around the green and just drive it and putt it like he normally does. It's the Sam Burns method.
That's who Matt Gannon's on as well.
Matt Gannon on Robert McIntyre.
He was on Tommy Fleetwood last week too.
Well, Tommy didn't win. What a loser.
Yeah.
Terrible pick by Matt Gannon.
Tommy sucks. Burns, you said something there too with like Burns and McIntyre. That's another thing I would do, Pat, is like just stick to the, again, it's like we talked about before, the Razza way of like sticking to the skill stack. But if you're going to say, okay, I'm seeing a profile like Bobby Mack working, his profile is like Burns. That worked. It's like, okay, Burns McIntyre leaves you 7,600. You can still go build a pretty good lineup. Starting with those two.
I did want to throw up the Johnny Kiefer stat trends right now. As you can see, Johnny Kiefer cannot chip to save his life, but the rest of the game is like there right now. Like it's actually there.
Yeah, I like that call, and that's why I liked it when you mentioned that one earlier. I was thinking right away, like, damn, that could be a spot. And you talked about Brennan earlier.
And I have Brennan right here. So I have Brennan's stats. He was T6 at the Schwab, missed the cut at the Byron Nelson when everyone liked him, myself included. And that's just like you're looking at the average per round, what he's gaining off the tee. Here's what he's gaining off the tee in general. Dude is like easily the best driver on tour.
He just smashes it, man. It's incredible to watch. Just pounds it out there. Doesn't matter. Up over the trees, lands it down. It's just, I'm fine. And him at 8,500.
But
again,
he fits exactly what I was talking about. Like when you take a look at that stat profile, mashes it off the tee. He's starting to have tournaments where he makes putts. And then if you can get a good iron week out of him, all of a sudden you're good to go.
Yeah. So I'm fine with that.
So we go Burns, McIntyre, Brennan, Kiefer. We can throw those guys in, and we still have $7,200 left. You can go like Fisk. I don't know, whoever at that point.
I'd put like Shipley in there, actually.
I mean, Shipley perfectly fits with that. And then you back up to 76, which gives you... I mean, Jordan Smith is sitting right there. And so is Yellow Mirage. So is Grazerman. I mean, I bet Grazerman. I like Grazerman this week. Isn't he another one who fits this? Remember all the second place finishes that Grazerman had? How'd he do it? Driving and putting, and had a respectable week with his irons. He's perfect for this line.
That's what I'm saying. And what's wrong with it? Again, somebody might look at it and say like, oh, you're getting a bit crazy, this, that, and the other. It's like that. Honestly, this is going to be a good week to whatever the person I'm talking about, whatever they're calling quote unquote crazy, is probably an awesome lineup this week.
And I don't see that. Listen, Aaron Rye is in the bottom. He just won the PGA Championship. So it seems odd to say that. But I think that there's a big line right here in terms of everyone. Because I value Alex Fitzpatrick maybe better than others. But dude has 5 top 10s this year. He's only played in like 7 tournaments or something. But like between the drop from Alex Fitzpatrick to Thorbjornsen, I think is massive. And I don't think that Aaron Rye probably should be in the Wright and Noren tier, honestly. But is there really that big of a difference between Keith Mitchell and Johnny Kiefer? I don't really think so.
Right. And that's where that can work to your advantage of, like you said, like, again, how popular can Kiefer even really get there at that price? Not that it matters, just saying like that. That's another example too, where again, might get mentioned, but I like the Grazerman call. You've already made the case for Bobby Mack, and then you sort of built out a lineup that fits that mold that was really started from a Sam Burns mold of the runner-up finish last year. So it's like, it's not like anything you're saying doesn't make sense. That's the key here.
You could even flip these lineups and go with the complete opposite end of player, where it's like all short game, all accuracy, keeps it clean, gets everything running. Like the Eric Cole. I mean, Eric Cole's not even accurate off the tee. He just hits irons and putting, I guess, would be that. That would be like Nick Taylor, Eric Cole. Who else would fall into this mix? There's a lot of bad putters in this tournament. Putnam. Fisk is
a little bit earlier there. You could put Putnam.
Yeah, Fisk is rolling it hot right now. Rose at his best is exactly what that is. So you throw in Rose, then you get Morikawa. You have a lineup like that too. I don't like this lineup as much, but I feel like these skills make sense together.
Yeah, which again, I mean, especially when you don't know how the course is going to play with the weather, and that's like I said, with that rain coming in and everything else that you talked about, it ends up just playing way longer than, or it feels that way. Like then you could actually just have that lineup that we just have with all the bombers in it. But if it causes something where this is needed in a different way, this is the type of build that you would have on the opposite end of that spectrum. So I think when you're building a portfolio, that's why I've always talked about for years, building in sets. It's good to have these types of concepts where someone's like, well, how the hell did they get to that lineup? It's like, yeah, we just didn't put our eggs all in one basket. That's the thing.
One other thing that we can look at here, we can take a look at it for past 6 months, which essentially encapsulates all of this year. BetSportsGolf.com/Mayo for 25% off for any of the plans, or code Canada this week to get it for $1. We go into floor ceiling because you're going to have to make some putts this week. This we know that if we just go to strokes gained total on putting, 2 strokes gained in a round, can you have one of those big ones? So you can kind of fill out lineups this way too. So you see Bobby Mack is there, Bridgman is there. Carl Phillips, I don't think he's as interesting as some people, but I know that people will be on Carl Phillips this week.
Yeah, I was thinking more, who stood out right away was Hostler. You talk about guys that have played good in Texas as well. That's definitely something there. Your Bobby Mack call fits in. I'm just trying to look at it quickly. Your boy AJ is there if you want to get another Canadian.
We got Alex. So this is what I thought was interesting, is that Alex Fitzpatrick is one of the leaders in gaining over 2 strokes putting in a round, but he's been like kind of terrible at putting all season long. That shows me that if he can continue with the same ball striking, it is in him. He gains 2 strokes in a round putting more often than Sam Burns does. Now Burns so the difference being Burns gains over 1 stroke putting in 50% of his rounds. Alex Fitzpatrick, 18.8%. Also for Alex Fitzpatrick, 18.8% of being over 2. So when he's over 1, he's over 2. That I like. So it leads to those low. So for showdown purposes, especially, like he's a perfect guy.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, that's what people will say. Scroll back up to the top for a second. Like a lot of people will say like, oh yeah, Silverman or AJ or Phillips or those guys, like they're way better in showdown. And probably true, but it's like if we get them through, if their good showdown round is round 1 and then they hang on in round 2 and make the weekend, it's like then they can have another one of those rounds. And that's where it becomes really valuable as the week goes on. Interestingly enough, there's none of these like Cauley, definitely not Corey Connors and those types of guys in here, but because of what we're looking at, but just noting it kind of puts you in like a different build style as well too, because you don't really land in that $7,800 range for anything.
No, what you could do is, let me just pull that up and load up some more teams here. If we went with the all spike putting team to move it around, what would we have? Phillips, Captain Phillips. He's on that list. We had Bridgman on that list. Who else was there? We had Burns and Alex Fitzpatrick. Bring that. Where did I? Now I've hidden it on myself. Where are we at here? All right. Ewert, Whaley. So you can go. Actually, Bobby Mack is there too. So Ewert.
I was trying to get Bobby Mack and Burns still to get in there. Like what a Bobby Mack, Burns, Alex Fitzpatrick, Phillips lineup looks like.
That might be too much money. Actually, it's not because you can go to Ewert at 69 right there. So it's Phillips, Bridgman, Burns, Alex Fitzpatrick, Bobby Mack, and Ewert. You're all spike putting lineup.
Yeah. That's another way to go. But again, I know like what people will say is one thing. What can actually happen? Is it aggressive? Yes, because you're relying on putting. Like, but at the end of the day, my point being, if they all have one good round in the first 2 rounds and it's enough, then you can get those spike rounds from them again in 2 more rounds of 3 and 4. And the more that those can get together and add up, and the more they move up the board and all of that, that's where it could work to your favor. But I still like picking options that are solid. It's not like that's a bad lineup. You have Burns, McIntyre, Fitzpatrick, and Bridgman, who are all going to pop anyway. And then you've got Ewert and Phillips. That's just where you're taking the risk, I guess, to some people, but not to me. Like, I'm fine with that.
So I shrunk the sample down to 3 last 3 months. So, 32 rounds, 10 rounds, depending on who. Like Mike Weir only has the 2 rounds from the Masters. But I sorted by strokes gained, 1 stroke gain putting per round, which is pretty good. And I think that this gives you a better sense of who's a good putter and who's not, because sometimes you'll look at overall putting stats for the week. A guy could gain marginally in 3 of the 4 rounds and just have one awful putting day, and it really skews his stats. I would say that these guys are your more consistent putters on a week-to-week basis. So it's David Skins, who was, I believe, top 10 here last year. Sam Burns, who was second last year. You have Ewert, Paul Waring. There's Mike Weir. But then you have, like, of the real guys, Cole, Mac Hughes, Hostler, Lonto, excuse me, Denny, Steven Jager's putting a lot better, Noren and Bridgman, Morikawa, Carl Phillips again, consistently really good on that front. Wyndham Clark, Nikolai. We have not mentioned Nikolai Højgaard once on this show, which is really surprising to me.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting DFS play this week because, like I said, $9,100. His price went up $1,500 or whatever off a missed cut. But you had the nuts there, and I want to make sure this one gets out there because it's a good one. It was Sam Burns, Bobby Mack. There's no holes in this lineup, in my opinion, when you're looking at putters. And then you go Bridgman Cole. And this is on even the revamped one. Plus from the original, these guys showed up as well. And then it closes out with Denny McCarthy, legit one of the best to do it. And that landed on Hostler, who showed up for Texas. He showed up for the 2 strokes and he showed up for the 1 stroke. And again, what's the risk here? It's like there's definitely risk in every lineup, but I'm just saying that's a pretty good lineup on paper. 2 9s, 2 8s, 2 7s. All in the different ranges. It's not like Bridgman and Cole will be as popular as the Rise, the Fitzpatricks, the Wrightons, and all that stuff. Maybe Cole gets a little bit, but not in this type of lineup. And then you won't see many people on Denny and Hostler, and that's fine. But they can both make putts for sure.
I'll tell you what the downside to this lineup is. It ends up being that when these guys make putts, they're all for par and not birdie.
That's the unfortunate part. Like I said, we got to get that lucky spike round in one of the first 2, Pat, and then just let them hang on and have the par day on the second day or something, but it's still enough to make the cut, and then give me a 64 on the weekend or something and roll from there.
Well, if the wind is as bad as it's looking right now, when they played this course on the PGA of Americas, this is all in my column that came out on Sunday evening, that the winning score was -5 the first year after the revamp. And they had bad weather that week. And like last year, obviously, we saw, I think it was minus 18, ended up being the winner. But there were very few it was pristine conditions last year. It was a bit muggy and a bit wet the first day, but not like outright pouring rain. And there was almost no wind to speak of last year.
Yeah. So it could be higher than we're thinking for the scores.
And if that's the case, then those guys, the Burns, the Bobby Med, the guys that just randomly show up at super difficult courses. Sometimes you see that the wind courses in Texas. The U.S. Open would be another one where those guys tend to rear their heads because their short games are good. They make clutch putts and they're putting for par from 8 feet, and they make those 8-footers for par. It's not your Johnny Kiefers of the world who have a bunch of 12-foot birdie putts, and sometimes they 3-putt them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Then those putts for par might be okay because we kind of want those guys that are higher likelihood of making them than the ones that are not. Like I said, the 12-footer that usually for the birdie maker might not be as solid as these guys making the 6 to 8 footers that they just make over and over and over again. And that's where, someone like Rye comes back into play again.
All right. I think that will do it. Do you have any final thoughts on the Canadian Open DraftKings wise?
No, I think it's going to be a good one. I mentioned earlier that the biggest thing for me and just going at it again is just that the event before a major can be a lazy event. This one sets up perfectly for it. And you talked about earlier, a lot of the ways the initial, at least the vibe chalk builds look like. It does look like it's going to be a pretty congested week on certain guys with ownership.
All right. Tambo at ShipItNation.com and the Ship It Nation YouTube channels where you're going to be able to find Blickle and Tambo doing Leverage Lane when they have all the tee times, all the ownership, and try to construct lineups that way. So tune into that on Wednesday. Also tune in to my show with Keith, The Final Word on the Canadian Open. And we will have that special show, the bonus edition of the PME this week for King of the Draft with me, Raza, Blickle, and Cust in studio drafting DraftKings teams against each other. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!